Alright. Okay, so what's up, guys? Today I'm gonna be reacting to the Five Kage versus Kaido is not close. Five Kage is from Naruto and Kaido is from One Piece. Two different animes that are part of the big three. They're like big popular animes back in the mid 2000s, early 2010s. Um, One Piece on top because way better story. I'm gonna get hate, but it's just the truth. I'm just keep it a buck, you know. Like, Shippuden was filler, no me. Like that, I don't know what you're expecting from me, but yeah, I mean Kaido. You know what they say? One on one, bet on Kaido. Bro's the strongest creature in the world of One Piece. Whatever. So yeah, let's get right to it.
Years, and I thought it would be fun to talk about a versus battle from two of my favorite series, Naruto and One Piece. Today, we're talking about the Five Kage versus Kaido the Beast. For the sake of simplicity, the fight will take place in the same battlefield where the Kage fought Madara. Chakra and Haki will not.
That scene right there is so reminiscent of like modern 1v1 millioning an army and dropping double meteors on the what the one of the on the Kage basically. That was bro was on demon time. He wasn't even alive technically. He was just a clone that was created by Orochimaru and stuff. But that's
not be
crazy.
equalized, and the Kage will be in perfect health. Now, to start off with the five Kage, which honestly need no introduction, they are five of the most powerful shinobi on the Allied Shinobi Alliance's side. Tsunade, A, Onoki, Gaara, and Mei have wildly different approaches to combat, and for what it's worth, had great synergy and teamwork when it came to their first battle against Madara. Tsunade, A, and Onoki are the heavy hitters of the group. Tsunade is by far considered the strongest member of the Five Kage, at least in terms of striking power, being complemented by Madara Uchiha. Her strength of 100 healings jutsu gives her body nigh immortality by constantly regenerating any damage and wounds she may suffer unless it's extremely serious. The right
Which Kaido would give her extreme injuries with his fucking big old club that he carries around. One strike and serious injuries will be inflicted.
Kage A, who is second in strength only to Tsunade, but boasts one of the highest speeds in the shinobi world. Stated to be nearly light speed when performing the double lariat with his brother B, and can outrun KCM Naruto with his lightning armor, increasing his neurotransmitter speed and granting him immense defenses. Anoki, the Tsuchikage, has access to particle style, a Keke Tota, that creates 3D shapes with spheres in the center that can disintegrate any target it comes in contact with at a molecular level. He can utilize Earth Style to either increase or decrease the user's or allies' mass through the super weighted boulder jutsu and the super lightweight boulder jutsu, and can create large stone golems and constructs. Gaara, the Kazekage, has the ability to manipulate sand. His sand autonomously moves to protect him. He can use this sand to create platforms for himself and the other Kage to fly, use sealing jutsu, create large sand formations for both offensive and defensive purposes like the sand tsunami, sand armor, sand coffin, and sand clones. He can also use the sand to absorb an extreme amount of force and can even wrap it around his opponents to reposition them. The Mizuka
None of this would. Madara is strong, but none of this would work against Kaido. His body composition is one of, if not his greatest attribute. Like sand isn't gonna hold him. Lowering his weight maybe is gonna help the situation, but I don't know if it's his weight more than his hardness of his skin per se. But yeah, I mean, I guess Tsunade would be like like he said, the strongest out of the five Kage with the most power. But even she barely inflicted damage on Madara. I'm not saying that there's a huge gap. I mean, there might be a gap between Kaido and Madara, but it's at least like it won't be too crazy to say like they could fight and it'll be like a extreme diff or hard diff Kaido win, and she barely like did any damage to Madara, and I believe Kaido is way more tanky than Madara. I could be crazy, but
Kage Mei is the last of the Kage, born with two specific Kekkei Genkai, Lava Release, and Boil Release. She has a decent amount of versatility when it comes to ranged jutsu. Her water-style jutsu is powerful enough to clash with Madara's majestic Destroyer Flame, a fire-style jutsu that was so strong it took multiple shinobi combining their water walls to extinguish it. She was also capable of melting.
That is like oh jeez, that's like 100 water. Water shinobi, hundreds of water shinobi, like using their jutsus to extinguish her fire there, which is pretty crazy because those are like elite fighters technically, and there's like hundreds of them. It really shows like the gap between like a Kage and like an elite fighter in the verse. So that's pretty cool.
Sasuke Susanoo
to look back on it because I watched the scene.
Her boil release, acidic mist, and her lava style can melt almost anything in its path. Now I have already gone over Kaido and
look at this demon. Tell me this man is gonna lose to the 5 Kage, bro. He fought while holding up a whole island, and he was fighting different people. And some of the, well, when I say different, he was fighting some of the strongest people in the whole entire verse, who all are crazy strong in their own right with various abilities and like conquerors hockey on multiple like people like Luffy and Big Mom. He even clashed with for like once or something. I remember in the beginning. I don't remember if they showed it in the anime, but in the manga, I remember they clashed, or at least it was stated. But yeah, like this guy's not losing. Look at him.
First video, so there will be a box that you can
that's a demonic ass laugh, bro.
But as far as power scaling goes, he is an absolute monster. As an Emperor of the Sea, he boasts extremely powerful haki relative to the large majority of the verse. He is a master of all 3 forms of haki, including their advanced variants, which means he has access to Future Sight, durability bypass, and can code his attacks with Conqueror's haki for even more devastating power. His mythical Zoan Fish Fruit model Azure Dragon grants him dragon scales that drastically increases durability almost to the point where conventional attacks do absolutely nothing. With the ability to fire his Blast Breath, which can easily wipe out a castle and mountaintop. He can even create flame clouds to lift massive objects like Onigashima. His physical strength and speed also increase drastically, and even while in dragon form, his speed doesn't seem to slow down whatsoever relative to his massive size. He also gains access to a hybrid form that has most of the benefits of his dragon form while maintaining the relatively smaller size of his base form. One more thing I want to go over before I move on to the fight is the combatant's stamina. The 5 Kage versus Madara fight seems to go on for at least a couple of hours, seeing as when they started their battle against Madara, the sun was still out, and by the time Madara activates the perfect Susanoo for the first time, the sky is already pitch black. Onoki, Gaara, and Mei were also out on the battlefield prior to this fight, and Onoki specifically had suffered serious injuries from Madara's Tengai Shinsei. Tsunade and the other Kage were pretty worn down since they were throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at Madara. As for Kaido, the Onigashima raid seemed to last a couple of hours, if not an entire night. From the moment the raid started, it seemed like it had already been a few hours into the night, and around the time Luffy had defeated Kaido, the sun still hadn't come out. Kaido did show signs of fatigue throughout his multiple fights, but he never really slowed down until Luffy fought him in Gear 5th, and even then, it was more or less the accumulated damage from that fight that made him momentarily drop to 1 knee. I personally
was a beast, bro.
The important aspect of a versus battle is the win condition. If you don't have one, then there really isn't any point to having it.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
5 Kage, as far as I can tell, only have particle style as a win con, since it should be able to atomize Kaido regardless of his durability. Gaara does have a potential win condition in sealing Kaido with a sand mausoleum, but Madara was capable of busting out with brute force through his full body Susanoo. Kaido should be strong enough to replicate this feat, at least in hybrid form, but if you think that it was a matter of size rather than strength, his dragon form should be more than enough to bust out.
No, for sure. His physical strength is like one of, like, if not his strongest feature of Kaido. So he for sure is breaking out of a sand pyramid. I don't care what you say.
On the other hand, is just going as unga bunga as possible on the 5 Kage.
Unga bunga, man. What the?
Kage and bonking them as hard as he can since
I'm
he
telling you,
doesn't
man, that
really
club is
rely on anything
crazy.
other than brute force and his flame attacks. If I'm going to be honest, I don't think the 5 Kage will be able to meet their win condition for a couple of reasons, unless one develops a very hyper-specific scenario where they hold him down and he does
They're not
absolutely
holding him
nothing
down.
to stop them.
They're not
I
holding
don't
him down.
think it's an outlandish claim to say that Gaara and Mei are easily regarded as the weakest of the 5 Kage. Mei did the worst against the wood clone Susanoo, not only being knocked around by them, but also nearly getting killed if it wasn't for Gaara's intervention. But even he got overpowered by the Susanoo clones. Mei's
You're getting cooked by clones of Susanoo. Imagine the real Kaido coming at you. You're done for. One of those freaking I'm trying to think of one of his name attacks. One of those club attacks hit you, you're cooked. That's all I'm saying. If you're getting cooked by a clone, you almost died to a clone.
two big strong points are her boil release and her lava release.
Not it. And also lava release and this acid release won't really matter because I saw my man fall into a volcano that was about to erupt and his body's fully intact and he woke up like he was swimming in water. That's just Kaido's durability is otherworldly. I don't think none of this would matter. And she's clearly has zero durability, so one hit and she's dead.
Her water release being a potential asset against Kaido. But I haven't seen any feat that would demonstrate that she would be able to flood an entire battlefield, which even then wouldn't matter since Kaido could just fly in his dragon form or lift up a massive portion of the ground itself with his flame clouds. As for lava release, I don't think it would make much of a difference even though it was shown to have a capability of melting through Susanoo. The Susanoo's durability is relative to its current stage, and I don't think it would have much of an effect on Kaido since he was shown to get submerged in magma after his battle with Luffy, and
Look
his
at this.
body showed no signs of it being affected
Bro,
by the
swimming
magma,
in
even while
magma
unconscious.
or
So
lava,
I don't
whatever the
think
fuck,
that there
whatever
is any
that is.
definitive proof that her lava style would even work. Not to mention, she would have a tough time landing it since she isn't exactly the fastest member of the Kage. Gaara would prove more useful since he's shown multiple times that he can defend and provide footing for the other Kage with his sand. It could also provide a cushion for the Kage in case Kaido gets too close. However, I do wonder how Kaido's advanced armament haki would interact with the sand considering it bypasses defenses and could potentially still land a blow on the Kage by blasting through the sand. I have seen some calcs that put Tsunade's attacks at island level, but Kaido...
Island level? What attack? Is it because of, I'm assuming it's some attack that injured, oh, okay, so tainted zone 2, bomb, it's still beast bomb is calculated to be island level and permanently remove one of its horns. Now these attacks get higher than the Kage's even with the weighted border jutsu. So it's calculated to be island level, but well, if that's the case, then they actually have a chance to win. I was wrong.
Similar, if not higher AP. Tsunade and A just don't have the attack potency to break through Kaido's tough scales. In the anime, Kaido tanked a stronger version of the King Kong punch head-on without so much as a scratch. In a previous battle, Luffy was capable of destroying a large portion of the country of Dressrosa with just the impact alone of his opponent hitting the ground. Even if you could argue that at least Tsunade would be capable of hurting Kaido with her punches, she isn't remotely as fast as the Raikage to be capable of landing these punches with some level of consistency. Even then, Kaido doesn't start taking sufficient damage from attacks unless they're coated in Conqueror's Haki or Advanced Armament Haki at the very least. Kaido does have a habit of tanking hits, which is actually a good thing for the Kage since they can capitalize on the fact that he won't try to block most of their attacks. However, whether or not they would be effective is up for debate. He also has been shown to dodge attacks that either would hurt him or potentially kill him. Given the scaling size for Onigashima, which has been calculated 7 kilometers in diameter, they haven't demonstrated any kind of feat that
Bro, they, based off of the number of pixels, they calculated how many meters it would be in a real life sense. Whoever did this, man, big props, man, big props. But that's pretty crazy. 57,000 meter diameter. So that's how. And then the height, so from top to bottom is 11,000. meters. That's a thick island that he just lifted, thick piece of an island that he lifted up while fighting. Because this is being lifted up while he's still fighting. So I know this takes a toll on him because you can't just lift up a whole island and just be not having any problems. Like, what are we doing? Like that's a lot of weight there, man. And he's fighting like some top tiers at the same time. So let's just
Would imply they would be capable of destroying Onigashima to the same extent that Luffy would have if he had landed the Bajorang gun without Momonosuke moving the island out of the way. A's speed, as I've mentioned previously, reaches at almost light speed while using his lightning armor. If he increases its output, he should be capable of moving at relativistic speeds. With a Noki on his back, they can combine either the lightweight boulder jutsu or the weighted boulder jutsu to even further increase his speed or striking power, although to an unquantifiable amount. I would like to add that it seems like even with the buff provided by Onoki, he isn't capable of hitting as hard as Tsunade, while she has her strength of hundreds jutsu active. Onoki also wouldn't be capable of using the lightweight boulder jutsu while on A's back and particle style at the same time, so he would have to land the attack directly on Kaido. Now you're probably wondering why I'm so certain that none of these combinations of jutsu and teamwork would have any considerable effect on Kaido. The simple answer is that besides his insane durability, Kaido should be bare minimum faster than light, if not much faster, and he has access to future sight.
he can see the future.
Right out of the time skip, while a pacifista which shot beams of light that were designed off of Kizaru's Glimmer fruit. Not only does Luffy dodge them casually, but he calls these beams slow. He blitzes and one-shots the pacifista before it can even shoot another beam. Even if one were to argue that only Luffy's reaction time is light speed and that he was using observation haki, the fact is that he thought they were slow enough to the point that he would verbally state it. Luffy later fights Doflamingo, who not only causes him trouble in base, but even while using Gear Second, which increases his movement speed and combat speed, he's just—
This motherfucker look laughing while he's falling down the Doflamingo Don Quixote family's castle. I don't know why I said the full name, but yeah, while he's falling down the castle, he's just arms crossed, smiling with his weird little glasses. Man, I can't. Man, he was one hell of a villain.
Blitzes Luffy.
Best villain in
times,
One Piece
he
so
has
far.
To be moving faster than light for his attacks to land on a Luffy who has his guard up. While in Gear 4th, Luffy could blitz Doflamingo mid-air from hundreds of meters away while flying towards him, and Doflamingo couldn't react whatsoever. Doflamingo states that the combination of armament haki and tensile force is raising Luffy's power several times. Several could mean 3 to 4 times. In a later arc, Luffy received several amps throughout his battle with Katakuri, the most important of which was mastering advanced observation haki or future sight. Before Luffy unlocked future sight, Katakuri, who also had it, was capable of seeing into the future and countered every single move Luffy attempted before he could act. He is so proficient in future sight that it had been years since someone had even laid a finger on him. Comparing this to Luffy's light speed reaction time from post-time skip, that would mean that Katakuri is attacking Luffy at greater than relativistic speeds. Luffy needed to create a brand new transformation, Gear 4th Snake Man, which would amp his speed several times, like how Bounce Man increases his power several times. Katakuri even goes as far as to say that he is still stronger and faster than Luffy's new form in the anime. All of the scaling is important because Kaido scales above every single one of these feats and everyone mentioned in them. His future sight is better than Katakuri's since he dodged Luffy's Gum Gum Hydra in dragon form, which is calculated to be around 1 to 2 kilometers long. He's so fast he could blitz Gear 5 Luffy multiple times, and when he hit a post-Udon training Luffy in base with his Thunder Bagua, Luffy outright says that he couldn't dodge it even with future sight. To give a better idea of how fast he is, Naruto in his 6-pack Sage Mode cloak dodged Madara's Light Fang at a relatively close range, which is stated in a databook to cut all things at the speed of light. Naruto also had precognition due to his 6-path Sage mode. However, Naruto in the manga seemed to be more surprised at the attack, even verbally stating "whoa" with some exclamation marks. And I don't think it would be outlandish to say that 6-path Sage mode.
What in the chat GBT as whoa? What was that? That little sequence that this guy made. It just sounded like AI.
Is faster and has better reaction time than the 5 Kage. Kaido got comboed by the worst generation, and they all hit him with attacks that could bypass his defense, and he seemed to be relatively fine. One of the attacks that I specifically want to go over is Law's Gamma Knife, which destroys the target's internal organs, and he immediately aimed it at
the animation, man.
Kaido's heart. When
so
he
beautiful.
used it against Doflamingo, Dofi repaired his organs with his Devil Fruit, whereas
that
Kaido
was crazy.
doesn't.
Imagine.
He shows no signs of fatigue or discomfort from these attacks at any point later in the raid, so even though internal attacks are effective, they aren't an immediate solution. But the Kage don't really have anything even remotely close to that. Kaido also seems to have a habit of going for the head when he fights an opponent. He is seen multiple times trying to crush Luffy from above and even blitzes Luffy behind the head while he was fighting in Gear Fit. While he does long for a good fight, Kaido doesn't really seem to hold back once somebody pushes him to his hybrid form. All of this is to say that the Kage's win condition particle style is more than likely just not going to land. I can't imagine a scenario where A, Gaara, and Tsunade can hold down Kaido long enough so that
they're not holding
can
down
catch
Kaido
him in a particle style jutsu. Especially since its size is relative to the amount of chakra he puts in, and Kaido is about 23 feet tall. I've tried to find any calculations that would put particle style at a relativistic speed, however, I just haven't found any, so most likely it just isn't fast enough. Ultimately, I don't think the Kage have many options here besides particle style.
I'm right.
Healing the 5 Kage
I was
may also
right.
not be much of an option since Kaido doesn't really give his opponents many opportunities. Unless he's already being distracted by a stronger opponent, and I don't think 3 of them alone are going to be able to hold
Look at Bob with this
enough
kid.
for him to not speed blitz and crush both Tsunade and whoever she's trying to heal. At the same time, because he goes for the head, it could be argued that if Kaido were to crush Tsunade's head, she may not get up afterwards since her strength of hundreds chakra pool is stored in her forehead. It could also be considered a severe wound. Tsunade is not much of a tank. She has great endurance, but her durability as a whole isn't
Dude, the
anything to boast.
chest.
No
That
matter
was
how
crazy.
I look at this, the Kage only have one win condition with particle style, while Kaido is just too fast, too durable, and could easily kill most of them with a few blows to a vital spot. Not to mention he has future sight, so catching him off guard isn't too likely. His ability to bypass durability with advanced armament haki also means that regardless of how tough they are on the outside, he can always guarantee internal damage, and ninja can't train their internal organs. But yeah, that was basically my take on this fight.
That last line basically finishes it. Ninjas can't train their internal organs, and advanced armament haki attacks the internal organs. No defense. And I know the 5 Kage are going to have major struggles trying to break through Kaido's defenses. So, like, I mean, let me know if I'm crazy in the comments down below. If you've watched these animes and you've done a little bit of analysis about, like, maybe how the power scaling system works in both. And, I mean, he kind of gave you, like, an idea of, like, One Piece characters being faster than light and the Naruto characters being relative to the speed of light, or a little, yeah, basically being around the speed of light or a little slower. So speed, power could be argued, and durability. All 3 are just in One Piece's favor here. So like, sorry man, 5v1 and they still losing to Kaido. Like, what are we doing? All right, but I'm going a little too crazy, like I'm a One Piece fan, so. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below what you think. And yeah, peace out, guys.